Hello and welcome to the University of King's College 2022 Virtual Open House. Thank you for joining us today. I can see some folks are still logging on, so I'm just going to wait a few moments to begin. So if you've just joined us, I'm just welcoming everybody to the University of King's College 2022 Virtual Open House. Thank you for joining us today. I'd like to begin by saying a few words about where we are located today. King's College is in the heart of Halifax, Nova Scotia. Halifax is also known by its Mi'kmaq name, Chibuktuk, which means Great Harbor. King's and Halifax sit on the unceded and ancestral territory of the Mi'kmaq people. In this photo, you can see some of our students raising the Mi'kmaq Ground Council flag that flies in the center of our quad. So my name is Ashley Baxter, and I will be your host for this evening. I am the on-campus recruitment and enrollment officer here at King's. I help organize the campus tours program, and I support and walk students through the grade 12 students like yourself through the admissions and application process. I have another colleague here today that I'd like to introduce you to, Yolana Wassersug, our Assistant Registrar of Recruitment. Yolana is going to be hiding behind the scenes today. You may have noticed that there is a question and answer or Q&A feature at the bottom of your screen. Throughout the webinar, Yolana will be posting web links in the chat box and will be on hand to respond to all of your inquiries through the Q&A feature. Yolana and I would both love to learn a little bit more about you. And so she's going to share a poll that can help us get a sense of who is tuning in today. So for today's agenda, I'm going to give an overview of our academic programs. I'm going to talk a little bit about our relationship and partnership with our neighboring institution, Dalhousie University. I'm going to speak to admissions, scholarships, and awards at King's. We are going to have a Q&A period with our student panelists who have offered to log in and speak about what life as a King's student is like. And after the event, I'm going to give you some insight on some upcoming webinars we will be hosting, the next steps you can take, and the ways you can continue to stay connected with us. So here at King's, we offer 4 different degree types: a Bachelor of Science, which includes subjects like biology, chemistry, and physics, but also programs like economics, marine biology and ocean science, mathematics, statistics, and more. A Bachelor of Arts, which would include programs like philosophy, languages, history, sociology and anthropology, psychology, political science, women and gender studies, and more. A Bachelor of Music, where we offer a concentration in composition, performance, musicology, or popular music. There are 15 different voice and instrument combinations for music students to choose from. And last but certainly not least, our Bachelor of Journalism, which I'll talk about in a few more slides. Many students choose to begin the first year of their 4-year degree with a unique program called Foundation Year Program, which you will commonly hear referred to as FYP, FYP. Foundation Year Program is our flagship program. It is something that sets us apart from other institutions. Foundation Year Program is unique in 2 ways, in content, but also in structure. Foundation Year Program takes students on a big time travel road trip through history from the ancient world up to the contemporary times, beginning with some of the earliest stories ever recorded. Some of these ideas are beautiful, enlightening, and groundbreaking. You're going to hear and learn about artists, scientists, and people who discovered some really amazing things. And some of these ideas, of course, are troubling and disturbing. You're going to have the opportunity to scrutinize and interrogate ideas about war, colonialism, race, and gender, and think critically about the impacts that these ideas have had over time. Foundation Year Program is going to help you understand the current world that you navigate and think about how we need to move forward into the future and how we should tackle some of the current issues we face in society. Foundation Year program is broken down into 6 sections: the ancient world, the Renaissance and Reformation, the era of reason and enlightenment, the age of reason and enlightenment, and the contemporary world. This is a selection of texts that our current first-year students are reading. And you might notice that Foundation Year program is interdisciplinary. You're going to learn philosophy and touch on literature and playwrights. You're going to hear from scientists like Darwin, Sir Isaac Newton, and Galileo. It's going to cross with politics, sociology, and anthropology. The Foundation Year program is a great way to explore many disciplines, especially if you're unsure what you might want to study in your upper years. Some of these names you might be familiar with, and some you may not, which is great because we would love to be the ones to introduce you to these thinkers. So Foundation Year program is also unique in structure. In a typical first-year university experience, you would take 5 different classes with different professors and peer groups, all offered at different times throughout the week. But Foundation Year program is more of a consolidated course akin to a mega class. So for our Bachelor of Arts, Journalism, and Music students, Foundation Year program is going to be worth 4 electives, leaving room in their timetable for 1 extra course. And for our science students, Foundation Year program is worth 3 electives, leaving room in their timetable for a science and math elective. So here is an example of what a calendar or schedule might look like for first-year Foundation Year program students. In the morning, Foundation Year program students attend a 2-hour lecture alongside 200 of their other peers, and they hear from a professor who is an expert in that subject. In the afternoon, you'll see that on Mondays, Wednesdays, Thursdays, and Fridays, they break out into small tutorial groups with about 10 to 15 other students, where they can ask questions, respectfully disagree and debate, and discuss the lectures and readings. It's notable to mention that our Foundation Year program tutorials are run by professors, which we here at King's call tutors. So at other institutions, you would typically find that seminars are run by graduate or upper year students, but here at King's, you get to work with a professor. This is really great. The professors are going to get to learn your name and know you on a first name basis. And this comes in really handy if you need a reference for grad school or you'd like to go on an exchange. As you can see in the calendar, of course, on top of study time at the library, there's lots of time for other fun things like coffee dates, trivia nights, movies, and more. So here's a photo of our alumni hall. This is our biggest lecture hall, and Foundation Year program is actually taught by a team of faculty, and it's hard to see here, but they are actually in the back 2 rows in the left-hand photo, and they are learning alongside you. Dr. Neil Robertson was the previous Foundation Year program director, and he's seen sort of in the right photo giving a lecture. And he has shared with me that every time he hears a lecture and rereads a text and leads a tutorial, and he works with first-year students who are looking at something with fresh eyes, he learns something new every year, which I think is really special. And here are 2 photos of some of our tutorial groups. So because students in the Foundation Year program have the same schedule, are reading the same text, and have assignments due on during the same time, it really fosters this supportive learning community. And the structure is especially great if you at home are all nervous about the transition to university and how you are going to manage your time. So Foundation Year program does not add any extra time to your degree. After completing the Foundation Year program, you can move smoothly into the 2nd year of your program. So thanks to our partnership with Dalhousie University, students have many program options to choose from. So you can combine and customize programs and build a degree that is unique to you. And we have a really great team of academic advisors who can help you navigate all of these programs. The programs you see highlighted in blue, Contemporary Studies, Early Modern Studies, History of Science and Technology, and Journalism, are actually King-specific programs that take place on our physical campus. With the rest of the programs here listed take place at Dal through our shared faculties, something I will touch on in the next few slides. So if you happen to choose a program that is through a shared faculty at Dal, I still encourage you to explore some of the King's unique specific programs because they've got some really cool electives. There's courses on science fiction and film where students watch some sci-fi movies. There's a course on the history, science, and culture of beer making. There's a course on theories of punishment, which is really popular, and even courses on witchcraft, vampires, and pirates. So I just want to take a moment to highlight our School of Journalism, Writing, and Publishing. We are the only journalism school in Atlantic Canada and one of the top journalism schools in the country. We run a very practical and hands-on program, with our students reporting, interviewing, and writing stories as early as their second year. And they share these stories through our online publication, The Signal, something that Yolana is going to share in our chat. So I encourage you, if you're interested in journalism, to check out The Signal and read some stories or listen to some podcasts by our current students. We've got everything on there from local to global news, sports, politics, arts, culture, events, and more. Our journalism school will help you learn about some big issues in journalism, like fairness and objectivity, ethics and media laws, the use of graphic images, and how to represent diversity in our communities. You will also learn the practical and hard skills needed for the field. You'll learn how to interview, how to research and gather information, how to write a feature assignment, use audio and visual equipment, and more. Journalism professors and students tend to have an editor-journalist relationship, and all of our journalism faculty are working journalists. So when you're in your fourth year and it comes time to apply for your internship and get a reference for your practicum, you've got some journalists in your corner. All of our journalism graduate students graduate with real-world work experience and a portfolio of their own. We really pride ourselves on having journalism graduates who are ready to step into the workplace and perform at a high level. We have journalism alumni working in major news networks, including the New York Times, CTV National, CBC, the Toronto Star, Global News, and more. If you'd like to find out what's new, true, and interesting, and share it with others, or the idea of pitching a story, going out on assignment, and attending a court hearing, maybe a protest or a festival, this could be the program for you. I also want to let students know that pursuing a minor in journalism is also an option. The School of Journalism offers some great electives on sports journalism, photojournalism, documentary writing, opinion writing, and a lot more. If you would like to learn more about our journalism program, we are hosting a photojournalism workshop and photo essay contest on December 4th and an All About Journalism webinar on December 13th. So what makes sort of all of this possible is through our partnership and relationship with Dalhousie University. Dalhousie is anywhere from 30 seconds to a 3-minute walk away, depending on which building you're headed to. We share the Faculty of Arts and Social Science, the Faculty of Science, and the Fountain School of Performing Arts, which houses, of course, the theater and music departments. We often say that through this relationship, King's students get the best of both worlds. You have this close, tight-knit, like-minded, and supportive community at King's, but you don't miss out on all of the facilities and resources that come with attending a large institution like Dalhousie. So King's students will have access to the Dalhousie Health and Wellness Center, which has doctors and nurses and counselors available to you through your student health plan. The Dalhousie Killam Library, which houses the accessibility services, writing services, and of course, lots of study spaces and resources. The Dalplex Fitness Center, which is a new $30 million facility. They have an Olympic-sized swimming pool, a rock climbing wall. They run the intramurals program, which is a fancy word for sort of non-competitive sports. They have a weight and cardio room and much more. The International Student Center. This is not only great if you're an international student tuning in today, but if you're interested in doing a study abroad or exchange. On top of this, of course, you also have access to additional supports. So there's the Black Student Advising Center, the Indigenous Student Center, the LGBTQ SIA Plus Collaborative, and more. If you are interested in King's, I strongly encourage you to explore Dalhousie as well. We are sort of a package deal, and as a King's student, you will find yourself on the Dal campus at least one point throughout your degree. And if you're really curious and you want to know more about this Dal King's relationship, we will be offering a webinar on this on Wednesday, January 11th. Oh, sorry about that. So as mentioned, Dal and King's are located in the beautiful and coastal city of Halifax, Nova Scotia. And this is a photo of our beautiful harbor front. If you want to learn more about what living in Halifax is like, I personally find discoverhalifax.ca is a very useful resource. They do a great job at showcasing local events, things to do, places to see, where to eat or shop, how to get around the city, day trips, and much more. With 7 post-secondary institutions, Halifax is the ultimate college town, a city truly centered around its students. We welcome over 40,000 students every year. So when you're walking around the downtown core and soaking up everything that Halifax has to offer, the majority of people around you are people your age in the same stage of life. So you can picture lots of coffee shops for studying, nightlife with live music, sports teams, museums, and galleries. And if you like the outdoors, lots of hiking trails, public parks and gardens, and of course, the Atlantic Ocean. Students come to Halifax from all over the world, and we can have them feeling like a local Haligonian in no time. So I just wanted to take a moment to talk about admissions. One key date that I would love for all of you to remember is March 1st. This is our scholarship deadline. If you apply to King's by March 1st, you are guaranteed to be assessed for a general entrance award, something I'm going to chat about in the next slide. Right now, we are in what's called our early admissions period, and many of you are in your first semester of grade 12. During the application process, you will be asked to self-report your grades, meaning we ask you to give us a list of all of the final grades you received last year in grade 11, and let us know all of the courses you are registered in for this year. And we will be using last year's grade 11 final marks to make a prediction on how you're going to do in your registered courses this year. After first semester and beginning February 1st will be what we call the regular admissions period, where we will use a combination of those final grade 11 marks, your first semester grade 12 marks, and the registered courses for second semester. You will also be required at this stage to have your guidance counselor send us an official copy of your transcript or provide us with your Nova Scotia student ID number or your OUAC number. Space is limited in our competitive programs and in residence. So we're really encouraging students to apply early if possible, but definitely by that March 1st deadline, as it's the scholarship deadline. If you have any questions about admissions, like how to report your grades, if you have enough academic classes, excuse me, if you are taking the right English or right math course for your program of interest, you can always email us at admissions@ukings.ca. So scholarships. There are a number of ways to fund your education or to help fund your education, including general entrance awards, major scholarships, and bursaries. We love to share that 95% of our first-year students receive some sort of financial support from King's. Our general entrance awards are pretty easy and straightforward, and at the top of the slide here, all incoming high school students who apply by March 1st will automatically be considered for an entrance award valued between $2,000 and $3,500. These are based on your admissions average, and there's no additional application required. These awards are renewable, and you can continue to receive this award in your upper years if you do well in your studies and you can meet the minimum GPA requirements. In addition to these general entrance awards, we have a number of major scholarships. To apply to these, there is some application forms and a short essay. The short essay has already been posted and shared on our website. And it's a very open-ended question. So if you enjoyed writing this essay, this is the type of paper you will likely see in the foundation year program. The major awards come with some very generous amounts, ranging anywhere from $1,000 to $50,000, and they are definitely worth the added effort. There are some criteria for our major awards. Some scholarships are based on student life activities. For example, there are awards for students who are really involved in their theater or choral community, scholarships for varsity athletes who participate in the foundation year program, or for students who demonstrate leadership, civic engagement, and community involvement. And other scholarships are based on student identity and for different types of students. So there are awards for African Nova Scotians, Black or African Canadians, and Indigenous students. Scholarships and awards are just one piece of the financial aid puzzle. The last piece is bursaries. So these are typically based on financial need. But if you are applying to a student loan and student grant, I strongly encourage you to apply for a bursary as well. The biggest mistake students make is just by not applying. And as mentioned, it's always worth the little bit of added effort. If you have any questions about awards, scholarships, bursaries, and funding your education, please email awards@ukings.ca. We will be hosting a scholarships and awards webinar on Tuesday, February 7th, and a financial aid webinar where our student accounts and bursar's office will participate on Wednesday, February 8th. So before we begin our student panel, I wanted to take a minute to chat about our alumni network. So you at home might be wondering, where can a King's degree take me? What can I do after my time in Halifax? And what alumni network will I be connected to? The King's alumni community is spread across the globe and includes individuals working virtually in any field imaginable. And what unites them is an awareness of their place in history, the drive for deeper understanding, a critical mind, and of course, the motivation to make the world a better place. If you would like to learn more about the types of jobs that our graduates are doing, you can explore their full profiles. We have an entire webpage dedicated to alumni stories at ukings.ca/stories. Yolanda will share this link in the chat, but I wanted to highlight two features that I think are especially cool. If you are a high school student at home and you already know that you want to be an entrepreneur, that you want to work in finance or health and medicine, law, education, or not-for-profit, you can search our alumni working in those fields by using the Filter by Career feature. Not only can you see those alumni that you would be connected to working in that field, but you can compare how they both got different people took that path to get there. However, if you are a high school student and you're not sure what you want to do, but you're curious about where a Bachelor of Arts, Science, Music, or Journalism can take you, you can use the Browse by Program feature and see alumni with the same degree types and see where they ended up after their time at King's. So we have now arrived at our student panel question and answer period, the part that everyone's been waiting for. Our current students are the best group of people to ask about athletics and intramural sports, about student employment on campus, societies and student life, study abroad and exchange opportunities, what living in residence or eating in the dining hall is like, and the fun traditions that make the University of King's College so unique. So without further ado, I'm going to invite our panelists to turn on their cameras and microphones, and we're going to have them introduce themselves. And I'm just going to stop sharing my screen so that we can have a better view of them all. Here we go. Okay, do we want to start with Catherine and just go around?
Yeah, okay, I should say I'm getting over a bit of a cold, so excuse the general stuffiness. My name is Catherine. I'm a second-year student at the University of King's College, currently pursuing a Bachelor of Science in Biochemistry and Molecular Biology and Economics. Last year, I did the foundation year program. Dr. Carrie Best Scholar and a participant in the Dalhousie Science Scholars and Leader program. So if you want to ask about any of that, we'd be more than happy to answer questions there. I'm from Sudbury, Ontario, which is 4 hours north of Toronto, and I decided to go to King's because the appeal of having like the small knit university community, as well as being able to access all of the like extensive resources and courses at Dal, was really appealing to me.
Okay. Hi, my name's Elle. I'm she, her. I'm in FIP Science, so foundation year program science. It's my first year, so far so good. I'm from Toronto, Ontario, and I chose King's because it was recommended to me by my guidance counselor, and I had family out here, and I love Halifax, so it just everything seemed right for me, and yeah.
Hi, my name is Lillian, and I'm a first-year student at King's. I'm doing foundation year science right now. I'm from Ottawa, and I chose King's because I was really interested in foundation year, and I also have family in Halifax. So I've been here before, and I like it.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Luke. I'm in my 4th year of the Bachelor of Journalism program. I originally come from PEI, so not too far away from Halifax. That's part of the reason I joined King's, but it was for the most part a place that kind of combined my academic and athletic interests. Plus, it's a unique. The program itself is unique and smaller, and the school itself fits those same characteristics. So that's right up my alley, I thought. I play for the men's rugby team for the King's College Blue Devils. And along with that, I have written for the Dalhousie student paper, the Dalhousie Gazette, for each of my years that I've been in school. So this is my 4th. So all 4 years I've been involved in the student paper.
Hi, my name's Miranda. I'm in my 3rd year of a Bachelor of Arts in Classics here at King's. I'm also taking a second certificate in art history and visual culture. I'm from Lunenburg, Nova Scotia, so only about an hour south of Halifax. And I came to King's primarily for the foundation year program because I wasn't quite sure what I wanted to do beyond first year. And the interdisciplinary nature of the program was really exciting for me, but also was really excited about the small community setting that the campus offers. In addition to my academics, I'm also in the Day Student Society, which kind of gives people living off campus a way to feel connected to the overall community. And I have a job on campus at the registrar's office where I'm a peer academic advisor. So in that position, I help students figure out degree pathways and what can come next after foundation year.
Great. Thank you, Miranda. Okay. So I just want to invite our participants tuning in today to use the Q&A feature to ask some questions. I know that when some folks registered for the event, there was an open-ended section where I'm going to pull a few questions that people had already shared. And I'm going to direct this one to Luke. Luke, do you think you could tell us about the varsity sports that King's does offer?
Hey, yeah, I'd be glad to. So the Blue Devils play mostly in except for 1 or 2 teams in the ACAA, which is the Atlantic Canada College League. So you have your university teams, which are the bigger schools like Dal, but King's is smaller, so they play against some good opponents from universities such as Mount Allison, the St. John campus at UNB, and those sorts of teams. So the sports that are offered there are soccer, rugby, basketball, volleyball, and badminton, I believe there might be one more, but I think I got the big ones down. Badminton in particular is a sort of a dynasty. In I don't know how many badminton players we have on the call today, but if you're looking to try out for the King's badminton team, then you're in for a ride because they're a very successful program. They've won the Atlantics the last so many years anyway, and they always do well at nationals. That's not to discount the other teams, so there are some really strong clubs. I know the soccer teams are coming off some playoff performances, some good playoff performances. I think they made the semifinals or something like that. Both the rugby teams are on the rise. They've been actually the men last week just won the Maritime Championship. That was their first in 10 years. As well as the women's team as well is a regular competitor in their division as well. So yeah, there's not as many as some of the bigger universities in terms of quantity of teams, but the teams that are there are close-knit, given we have fewer students than other schools. They're close-knit and competitive in the leagues they play in.
Great. Thanks, Luke. Okay, so people have warmed up. We've got some questions that are in here. One question was directed for Ellie. You said that you're from Toronto, and as someone who really loves the city life, would you say that Halifax is a similar vibe to downtown Toronto, or would you say it's more of a suburban city? And can you speak to that?
For sure. Great question. Great question. So yeah, I'm from like downtown Toronto, so I'm used to a very big city. I would say that Halifax has all the elements of a city. Like there's still a downtown core. Everything's very walkable. There's good transportation. But there's this element where it's like, I can go to the ocean. Like there's nature and there's more like green space and stuff here, which I found to be like a very good change of pace from Toronto. If that is your vibe, then for sure Halifax will be for you. But I would say Halifax is still very much so a city. It's not at all like a suburban sprawl. It's just kind of a smaller, more kind of like slower pace than Toronto. Yeah.
Thanks. Okay, so speaking of kind of location, I guess I noticed that 1/3 of people tuning in today are from Nova Scotia. Miranda, I was hoping maybe you could talk about what being a day student means at King's and about that society.
Sure. So I've been a day student all 3 years of my degree here at King's, simply because first year was a little wonky with COVID. I actually lived in my hometown while I did that first year, but fingers crossed we won't have to go back to that anytime soon. But being a day student is really fun, actually. I find it really nice to have my own space and just be able to have my own apartment and then be able to walk to school. As Elle said, transportation is really great in Halifax. So it is pretty easy to get around the entire city, no matter where you end up living off campus. But the Day Student Society has been really great at getting things set up for people to come to campus and spend time there. We actually have a day students like kind of a hangout area on campus. It's called the Ward Room. And within the Ward Room, we have both the Wardy, which is the bar, and the Galley, which is the campus cafe. Both of those are owned by students and run by students. So that is just a really great place where you can find most of the day students sticking around during the day. And the Day Student Society actually does some other events outside of class time. So recently we actually did a trip up to Noggins Farm. We did some apple picking and we got to go through the corn maze. So just some really great things to kind of get that community feeling while not necessarily living in residence or, being on campus all the time, because you do have a tiny bit of a commute, but there are lots of like hangout spaces and study spaces on campus that are comfortable and good to stay in while you're not at home.
Perfect. Thanks, Miranda. Okay, the next question was there a large gap in difficulty from high school to fifth? I don't know who wants to maybe tackle this one.
I can if
Yeah,
since I'm first year. So for me, I found there was a bit of a challenge at times just because of COVID high school. But I think that coming from your year, like I'm assuming that everyone's in grade 12 that's on the webinar, like you have more time to actually adjust to what regular school feels like. My thing is that FIP is a challenge, but it's awesome. It's an awesome challenge and it's doable. It doesn't feel like overwhelming or like too much. I don't know. I feel like for me, it was like I felt really up for the challenge, and yeah.
Great.
So
Miranda, do you want to add to that?
Yeah, I have something to add to this. I actually took a lot of international baccalaureate classes while I was in high school. I'm not sure how many of you are actually enrolled in those in your high school, but those were really good preparation if you were enrolled in those. But essentially with my own transition to FIP, I found it was a lot of work to sit down and read every day, pretty much. But once you're in that kind of community setting and surrounded by people who are also learning the exact same things as you at the same time and preparing the same sorts of assignments at the same time, it becomes really easy to learn as a community, and it feels less like work and more like just chatting with your friends when actually it's like active learning and studying. So I found it was really helpful that everyone was learning at the same time. And it feels sort of different than high school that way, because most of the time you're learning the same concepts and the same literature at the same time, rather than split into 5 classes.
Great. Okay, Catherine, I'm going to direct this one to you. How has foundation year program prepared you for a Bachelor of Science?
So the foundation year program I found has been really helpful to kind of take an interdisciplinary approach at science. So sometimes like with science education, we fall into like the pit of like view from nowhere, or like very like just very like this is what it is. When a lot of the times there's more to look at around like science and research being done and the impacts of it. And with the Dalhousie Science Scholars and Leader program I'm participating in now, we look at a lot and try to challenge who can do science, who should do science, how should science be done. And these are questions that really benefit from looking at the history of Western science, which is usually viewed as like usually what most people think when they think of science. And that you get a good background in at the foundation year program. And also King's offers history of science and technology, which also kind of looks at that. So you get this like holistic view of science, not just like this is what a whale is, more like this is how, well, it's a weird example, but like this is how people have studied whales in the past, and this is why they study whales, and like this is the research that's going on at the moment, and why is it going on? Like it gives you this cool history of stuff, and enables you to like look at it more in an interdisciplinary way.
Beautiful. I love that answer. Okay, so a few questions about what is living in residence like? How are the meal options? And are there any residence must-haves that you didn't expect to need and bring with you to campus? So I know that Lillian and Elle are both tuning in from their residence room. So I don't know if Lillian, you maybe want to start us off on what living in residence and eating in the dining hall is kind of like?
Yeah, can everyone hear me okay? Okay. Can everyone hear me okay now? Well, I definitely have an answer for the residence must-haves you didn't expect to need. So like everyone tells you to buy flip-flops or something for the shower, but also I would say get like slippers or slides or something you can slip onto your feet really fast, just for like going to the bathroom and down the hall and doing your laundry and stuff, because you have to be like out in and out of your room quite a few times.
Great recommendation. And how about what is living in residence and eating in the meal hall like?
I like it. It's pretty it's been pretty good so far. Personally, I don't know if do we want to talk about the different types of residence rooms?
Yeah, that would be great.
Yeah, so I have a bay room, so I have a roommate, but it's like 2 different rooms. So I have it's like one in front of another. I have the front one right now.
Yeah, I
So-
kind of describe it to folks as if you were staying at a hotel, and you know how there's that awkward door sometimes that conjoins 2 rooms. That's what we offer in residence. So you both share a main door, but you've got this privacy, but you also have the experience of a roommate and a built-in friend.
Mhm. Yeah, I personally have an Alex Hall room. I'm in the basement and it was freshly redone this year, so hello, it's awesome. But yeah, so I just have like one room where there's 2 beds and you sleep with your roommate. You know what? It sounds like a lot like to kind of sleep with a random person in the same room as you, but so quickly it becomes normal. Like it's like within a couple days you're like, I feel like I've lived with you for forever. I personally really like the residence like culture here. Like it's really close knit. There's like a million times a day that someone knocks on my door and just like comes in and hangs out with me. It's so fun. Like genuinely, it's a really good experience, I find.
Lillian, did you have anything you wanted to add, or do you feel?
Yeah, also we have common rooms in the residences, so if you want to go like watch something on the TV or make a meal in the kitchen, you have access to that.
Yeah, that's a great feature of both our residence buildings.
Do you mind if I jump in for the residence questions? I had I was fortunate enough to live on residence last year and very much agree with the common rooms. Big fan of movies. So a lot of times we would have like movie nights in the common rooms with some people we knew from around campus, and the meal hall. One of the biggest things I miss now I'm living off campus is the Prince Hall meal hall. The staff is super friendly. The food's really good. Sometimes they have like an ice cream bar that goes out. I love when it's ice cream night. Favorite thing. Yeah, but the residents and the food meal hall staff is really friendly, and they have there's a lot of options for like if you're vegetarian, they'll have a vegetarian option. Or if like you don't like what they're serving the hot stuff that night, you can go and they have cold food things where you can kind of help yourself. At least when I was there. I think that's still how it is.
Yeah, it is. And they just got these magic bullets. So you can make your own smoothies now. It's awesome.
I love that. And someone had just asked, is there a chance of living on campus beyond your first year? And yes, we do have some upper year students integrated into residence. And we even have a whole sort of building that is just for 2 actually, North Pole Bay, and I believe the Angels Roost are for upper year students. Okay, so someone was asking, how diverse is the King's community? Does someone want to talk about this? Miranda?
I can talk about this. So I personally feel I'm a queer and gender diverse student here at King's. So a lot of King's students actually tend to be on the queer side of things. It's kind of just like we flock all to one portion of the province, and it typically ends up being King's. And we have lots of supports on campus for students who are gender diverse and who are queer. And there's a really great and accepting, vibe that comes with King's. It's just typical that people are really accepting, especially when they come into a liberal arts program. And people know not to mess around on campus with things like that, because there are supports in place. We have like different peer supports on campus. We have Isa, who is one of our student support officers here. We also have like different sexual health supports, as well as our access to Dal Health and Wellness is really great for same-day counseling and all of those different things, especially if you just need someone to talk to who is trained professionally in the medical profession. So lots of different things. And Halifax itself is one of the most like queer cities in the country. So it's really great living here. There's a great vibe with all of it. And you never really feel unsafe in Halifax. That is something I like to tell people.
Thank you for sharing that, Miranda. Yeah, I just wanted to add, I'm so glad you mentioned supports. We also have an equity officer, Rima Ferguson, and a racialized students collective that have their own space on campus as additional supports for our students of color. On top of course, the supports that you have at Dalhousie through the Black Student Center and the Indigenous Student Center. Okay.
Yeah, I can speak a bit on being an Indigenous student at King's. So I'm a off reserve member of Millbrook First Nation, which is so I'm Mi'kmaq, which is the Indigenous people of Atlantic Canada, and I think like there's a huge initiative and a lot of support now to try to like diversify the King's population, and there's a lot of support. Like it feels like it's like genuinely care, like, you know. And there's supports at Dal. You can access like the ISC Indigenous Student Center once a month on Fridays. They have their Sacred Fire, and usually it has a meal made by, I don't know what her official title is, but Michelle Gravelin. Shout out there, which is just amazing, like chance to connect with the broader Indigenous community, both at King's and Dalhousie. So it's pretty supportive, yeah.
Great, thanks for sharing, Catherine. Okay, how integrated are King's and Dal?
I can jump in. It's been a few questions. So yeah, very is the answer. You will, if you're here for an extended period of time, like in a program that's longer than a year or two, then I'd say absolutely expect to take courses at Dal. But that's actually a really exciting thing. In my journalism program, I was given a ton of freedom to do what I wanted with half my degree, essentially. Half of it was journalism related, and the other half was, you know, take whatever courses you want with certain caveats depending on your degree requirements, such as Canadian history and Canadian content. But for instance, I completed a minor in economics with my elective courses that I had the opportunity to take my second and third years. So that was a big part of it as well. I'm big into sports as well. So I follow a lot of university sport and that sort of thing. I know this is a rather small advantage in a sea of big advantages that Dal offers, but this is just one I enjoyed. Free admission to sports games. The Dal Tigers have very good sports teams. In some ways, I think university sport is of higher quality competition than others around the country, given athletes that play kind of within that same age bracket, like in their 20-year-old years and that sort of thing. As well, you get access to the facilities as well. One of them is like, again, athletic facilities. I'm speaking on athletics terms as sort of the athletics panelist here. But at the King, for instance, if you like lifting weights, you can use the King's weight room. It's very nice. I like using it. You have everything you need there. But you also have the option to use the Dalplex, for example. I think it was built less than 10 years ago. It's a brand new facility that's renovated regularly with like what I find to be present needs of students and other members of the community. So those are a couple of the examples that in the ways Kings and Dal are tied. My fellow panelists may have other examples of how they use Dal, because Dal is such a massive university, but there's so much to take advantage of.
Yeah, go ahead, Lillian.
Yeah, also if you're a King's student, you're able to join any like Dal society or group that you want. Like personally, I'm in the Dal orchestra this year, and like yeah, it works really well. And even in foundation year, I mean, I take 2 classes at Dal, so I'm there almost every day.
Great. Yeah, and from what I'm hearing and from what I've heard from other students, how much time you spend on Dal is kind of up to you. It depends on the societies you're interested in, where you like to work out and play your sports, where you like to study, kind of where your friends hang out. So you've got 2 options. Okay, so we've got some questions about the benefits of the foundation year program, as well as how academically oriented King's is. The student writing in says they come from a very competitive high school and student body, and they're wondering sort of if you guys can speak to that at King's. Okay, I'm going to say the questions again, just in case. What are the benefits of foundation year program, and how academically oriented is King's?
I can speak a little bit on that. As for benefits, the foundation year program is incredible in how quickly you learn, and it's so immersive that I feel like there's already really because I'm only been a student here for a couple months, but I'm already seeing like some very positive changes in my writing. Even, and this is gonna be a good skill, speed reading. I can like speed read like there's no tomorrow now, which is really awesome. And I don't know, I just feel like there's a lot like I find also now, like when I'm reading other things or even in my science classes, like there's a lot of connections that can be made back to the things I'm learning in FIP, like foundation year program. I've killed it on Jeopardy ever since I started doing the foundation year program, because there's a lot of illusions and like questions about all that stuff. So yeah, I'd say overall, I'm already really reaping the benefits, and it's only been a couple months.
I think Miranda has said the same thing about killing it at trivia night. So I'll let Miranda go next.
Oh my goodness. My mom and I watch Jeopardy together very frequently, and she's amazed at how much I just like random knowledge has been put into my brain by foundation year. So I mean, for myself with foundation year, I mean, my writing improved drastically, and that's coming from someone who did like higher level international baccalaureate English. Like there are no limits to where your writing can go, especially in this course. And your tutors, the people who lead your tutorials outside of lecture periods, so your seminar classes, which are typically later in the day, the same day as your morning lecture, your tutors are like deliberately set up to make your writing better through your discussions you have after class. And they are the ones who also mark your papers. And they are so great at giving, you know, constructive criticism and good feedback on your writing, and making sure that they want you to succeed. They want you to do better in the course, like where you are. So no matter how amazing your writing is now, it will get better in this program. It is like absolutely amazing to watch that happen. And I would say for how academically oriented King's is, everyone like does their readings and discusses the content, even outside of class time, even like within their tutorials, obviously, but outside of class time is also very important to King's students. I wouldn't necessarily say it's competitive, but you can make it competitive if you want it to be. If that's something you and your friends want to set up and be like, who can get this reading done the fastest, or like who can, you know, kind of make that setup work. yeah, it's kind of like whatever helps you learn best. You and your friend group can definitely set up things like flashcards and study nights. And sometimes people do like reading get-togethers where I know my friends and I one night did basically assigned each other roles of the Shakespeare play we were reading, and we read it together. Just because we were so tired of doing the same reading every day, you can really make it immersive that way. And something we do alongside that is we have classics in the quad, which is basically the first year and second year students. It typically tends to be those first 2 years. And the King's Theatrical Society put on a play on the steps of the library that typically happens in the middle of October. It's absolutely beautiful to sit and watch. And the play they put on is always when they read in foundation year. So it's a really immersive way either to watch the play be put on or to participate in the play. And I love going every year. Unfortunately, we didn't have one my year, but going and watching and seeing foundation year students really immersed in what they're learning, it's always really exciting.
Thanks, Miranda. Yeah, it sounds like Catherine had talked about the critical thinking skills that foundation year program gave her for science. You've talked about the writing skills you guys have gained. I know journalism students have said that the reading skills, just the depth and the breadth and diversity of reading that foundation year program gave them the confidence to approach court documents and government policies when working on their investigative journalism pieces. Because they said, well, I've read Foucault, I can certainly read this court document. Okay, I've got another student here interested in hearing about study abroad or exchange opportunities now that things are starting to open up more. Miranda, I don't know, I'm going to toss this one to you. Do you know anything about study abroad and exchange and field courses at King?
Sure. So there's 2 different ways pretty much you can go about a study abroad at King's. One way is doing it in partnership with DAL. So they have an international student center, forgot the word for center. The International Student Center kind of sets that up. Typically that's during your second semester of your third year. That can vary if your program goes longer than 4 years. And there's countries available like the UK, France, other European countries, Asian countries like Japan and Korea, Australia, New Zealand, the US and Mexico. I couldn't find anything on South America when I looked, but it can never hurt to ask. So those are kind of for a longer period of time. And there's a bit of an application process that goes with that, and maybe setting up a student visa, all that sort of thing. Then King's offers 2 specific courses that do like site-specific summer courses that end up in one in Berlin, and the other one is in Italy. I believe it touches on 2 cities, but I'm not sure which. So one is a German and contemporary studies course. It's valued at 2 courses worth of content, and it happens over a month in Berlin, which I have some friends looking at that this year, and they're really excited to get started on going there. And then there's another early modern studies course that studies early modern art and the Italian Renaissance, which is one I'm looking to take. So it's really just exciting. And the profs who are setting these courses up are absolute what am I looking for? Just professionals and masters of their craft and understanding what's going on. So they're really well knowledged on these things as well. So reaching out to them, you can definitely find that sort of stuff on our website as well.
Great. So it's about 5 o'clock and I've got a few slides left, but I wanted to throw one more question out to the student panelists. Okay, 2 more questions. Someone's asking if the roommate matches are successful. Does anyone want to chat about if who they were matched with for their roommate was great?
I would feel so. I'm pretty happy with my roommate, or my first year roommate. After first year, we also got a house or like shared an apartment with another friend of mine for 2 years after we finished up the first year, and is still my friend today. A lot of the time at King's, given how small it is, especially in FIP. I think he'll be taking at least some classes with this person as well. So like in some way, shape, or form, it's easy to relate with them. But yeah, that was my experience, and I was pretty satisfied.
Great to hear. There's in the residence application, there's a section where you can share important details about your lifestyle preference, your preferred living environment, where you get to tell us all about yourself. Like we said, it's a small community and there's only about 200 to 250 students living on campus. So the residence team, I think, does, from what I've heard from students, a really great job at pairing folks up. So my last question of the night is, what is your favorite King's tradition? There's some pretty unique traditions here at King's that make joining our school unique that you won't find at other institutions. So maybe I'll let I won't direct that to anyone. I'll see just who wants to go first.
I don't know how much of a tradition it is, but the last year I really enjoyed, well, like all the different meals and stuff that are held in the in Prince Hall, which is the dining hall. So like I think it was East Coast night or something like that, where they had a live band and they were, you know, they were playing. And then like the formal meal, is that, yeah, I believe it's called. They're fun events, and especially now as off campus, somebody who's living off campus, the Day Student Society supports people in like buying tickets for them to go to those events. So it's a nice opportunities, good food, good music, and gather as a community.
Great. Yeah, the East Coast night. I think people are bagged in by a bagpiper, and I think you get some seafood. And I saw Luke and Miranda, who are both Maritimers, nodding their head. Lillian, did I see you?
Yeah, I mean, I haven't experienced everything yet because this is my first year, but I really enjoyed Classics in the Quad. It was a really excellent performance, and especially after you finish section 1, which is like the ancient world, you have a lot of context for it.
Yeah, and for those of you who don't know, Classics in the Quad is an annual, I guess, production put on by the King's Theatrical Society, and it takes place on our library steps, kind of at sundown. So the whole campus is glowing, kind of similar to my background image. And there's lots of students out and faculty and staff watching the first years put on this great, usually a Roman or Greek tragedy or comedy. Go ahead, Luke.
Yes, a tradition for me would be FIP Monday, is what I remember as a FIP student. So in FIP, usually how it works is you complete a paper about every 2 weeks, which is due on a Monday morning. So working on that paper Saturday and Sunday, as expected, might cut a bit more into your social time as the usual weekend would go. A lot of things that first year students do on that Monday is to kind of make up for it by making Monday a kind of impromptu weekend evening for them. And a lot of times there's actually most nights rather than others on a FIP Monday, there's an event going on, often with live music, once again, with local groups from around town. I said if I were to ever form a band, that's one of the first places I'd like to play because it's such a unique atmosphere when everybody cranks up the amps and stuff at the Wardy. So that's a really cool thing I thought was cool to check out in my first year. And it's a fun environment.
Yeah, I had forgot about that tradition, Luke. Luke is right. The Wardroom is sort of our campus clubhouse hangout space in the day, and it is a campus bar in the evening, and they do karaoke. There's Star Wars trivia night, Taylor Swift listening party, live bands, there's a pool table, definitely a great space. And we have what's called a wet dry liquor license. So if you are 17 or 18, which Lillian and Elle might be, and you're at university, you are still allowed to be in that space. You obviously cannot be served alcohol, but you're not missing out on what's going on at FIP Monday. Okay, Ella Miranda, do you want to share your favorite King's tradition?
Yeah, for sure. For me, I signed up for the Cape Split hike, which is like, I think it happens annually, like a big hike. Kings does a lot of these kinds of like hikes and retreats, kind of like monthly. So yeah, I went on the Cape Split one and it was awesome. You drive out and you hike for hours to this like incredible view of the ocean, and like it was just a really great opportunity to like meet people outside of like first year. Like I met people like upper years, and yeah, it was just a really great experience and also amazing to get off campus and like to experience something new.
Yeah, that's the
Yeah.
annual President's Hike, hosted by our president, William Leahy, who goes by a first name basis with all of our students. They just call him Bill. He is a legal scholar who still teaches at the Dalhousie Schulich School of Law. So if anyone here is interested in pursuing law school, he's a great mentor. We've got a great relationship with University of Calgary School of Law as well. And he's passionate about green spaces in urban areas. So that's, I know, something near and dear to his heart. Go ahead, Miranda. I didn't mean to cut you off.
No worries. You also really can't go a day without seeing Bill on campus. He's always around. And I don't know what he has going on in his mind. He will always know who you are or ask your name if he doesn't. He is absolutely wonderful. Can't speak enough good things about Bill. But my own personal favorite tradition at King's is matriculation. So in your first few weeks, and sometimes a bit later if things, get delayed, you will sign this really fancy big book. And it kind of comes with a bit of a, pomp and circumstance, as it will. You get piped into Alumni Hall, and you do a bit of a ceremony. You're dressed in your formal academic gowns, and you stand in the room, you hear a few speeches, and you say a formal chant, like a Latin reading that you're talked through. You're not expected to know the Latin off by heart, but it basically proclaims you as a member of our university forever. And that you're always, included in the community, no matter where you're from or who you are. And it's a really great like community building. I wouldn't call it an exercise, but it's really awesome. And then at the end of the ceremony, there's a bit of a reception, and you get to sign the matricula, and then your name is just permanently etched in the university. And as someone who works in the registrar's office, I see a lot of the behind the scenes of planning the matriculation. So it's just really interesting and, fascinating, wonderful to watch it happen. And it's one of my favorite things, just because I got to put on a fancy gown and go out with my friends and, do a little Latin chanting. It's so fun. Like, it sounds a little bit crazy, but it's really wonderful and fun to do.
Perfect. Thank you, Miranda. And thank you to all of those who asked questions today to help make this as interactive as possible. And of course, thank you to our student panelists for taking time away from their studies to tune in and tell you about what life at King's is like. So I hope this helped you imagine what being a student at King's might be like if you choose to come here next year. If we didn't get to your question, I encourage you to email us at admissions@ukings.ca. I do run that account, so I can personally say I will make sure that I answer your question. So before we wrap up, I just want to take a moment to share a few next steps with you, and I'm going to share my screen again. Okay. So here are some upcoming events. We are continuously hosting new events, and we would love to see you again. I'm just going to share our last poll to maybe hear from you guys to see what you're most interested in learning more about. Attending an event is a great way to learn more and, of course, have more of your questions answered. Here's a list of our upcoming webinars events. We've got events on journalism, foundation year program. I know there was a few questions in the chat where you can hear from the director and hear from some more students. Webinars on our relationship with Dal, webinars specific to US or international students, webinars on scholarship, financial aid, and more. You can register for these and learn more at our Future Students webinar webpage, which Yolana is also going to include in the chat. So in addition to registering for another virtual event, I encourage you to look out for an important post-event email from us. It will include the recording to this webinar, and we will be reaching out to our door prize winners. Of course, I encourage you to apply online and apply early. Applications for admissions and for residents are open, and be sure to remember that March 1st deadline. And of course, follow us on social media. It's a great way to get a sense of what students are up to and what the academic community is like throughout the year. We are on Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and Facebook. So I just wanted to thank you all for tuning in today and attending the University of King's College 2022 Virtual Open House. We hope you will consider joining the King's community, and we look forward to connecting with you soon. Bye now.